Yahoo Sports Fantasy Football Live is presented by Captain Morgan, Auto Trader, and by Lectio Inclisiran.
We are back. Welcome to season 17 of Fantasy Football Live. 17. This show can drive. It can almost vote. It can almost see any movie it wants to. We're going to spend the next hour getting you ready to win your opening week fantasy matchup. I'm Andy Behrens, coming to you from the heart of Big Ten country. I am joined by Matt Harmon. He's one of the internet's foremost receiving influencers. He's in Southern California. Also by Titans legend, Tank Williams, Stanford legend, Tank Williams. Live in the Bay Area, betting analyst Minty Betts will be joining us later in the show. But first, the season hasn't even started yet, and we have a lot of injuries to worry about. So let's get right to the latest updates. Look at George Kittle. It pains my heart, but Iowa's own George Kittle is inactive today as the Bears and the 49ers are playing in a monsoon in Chicago. Kittle dealing with a groin injury. Green Bay's Allen Lazard received the doubtful tag yesterday. He's unlikely to play against the Vikings. He's got an ankle injury. That's a little bit heartbreaking. I got a lot of Allen Lazard. Michael Thomas, we haven't seen him since January of 2021, but he will go today against Atlanta. He'd been limited in practice with a hamstring. And finally, tonight, Chris Godwin, pretty impressive story. He is listed as questionable for the Bucs in their matchup against Dallas after that late season ACL tear last year. He's likely to play, could be on a snap count, could be limited today. All right, guys. Man, that's a lot of stuff there. Harmon, let's start with you. Michael Thomas, what are your expectations? The last time we saw him, it's been a long time. This guy's coming off one of the greatest seasons in the history of his position. Now we haven't seen him because of an ankle injury in forever.
Yeah, it feels like it's really been about 2 calendar years since we've seen Michael Thomas at the height of his powers. But I'll just kind of run back my analysis for Michael Thomas going into the 2021 season. I'm excited to see him with Jameis Winston because I think Michael Thomas kind of got a bad rap as just, the slant boy, which, by the way, slant boy is an objectively good nickname because it bothers Michael Thomas. So that's how you know it's a good nickname. But I don't really think it really kind of exemplifies his game. I'm really interested to see him with a guy in Jameis Winston who is aggressive, who will let it fling it downfield. But, I don't know that I'm starting him in fantasy in this week 1, but I am at least interested to see how he operates, how he works within the confines of this offense with a new quarterback.
All right, I'm going to take this George Kittle situation. It's bad. As you can imagine, I am affected by it across several leagues. Got a lot of George Kittle. Guys I'm replacing him with who are widely available in Yahoo formats right now. Evan Ingram, great rapport with, I know nobody's ever excited to add Evan Ingram, but come on, he's had great rapport with Trevor Lawrence throughout camp and preseason. Mo Alley-Cox, an interesting name for the Colts. Another name, Cameron Brate, probably going to step into at least some of those Rob Gronkowski targets for the Bucs. Those are the options. I know they're not ideal. You expected more from George Kittle. Tank, talk to me about the Green Bay receiving core with Allen Lazard out this week.
Oh man, I'm hurt. I too have a lot of Allen Lazard, and what pains me the most is when I look at social media and I see Aaron Rodgers get off the plane with the Matt Harmon hairdo, and I'm like, dang, so this dude's gonna roll up into Minneapolis looking like Harmon after doing the whole offseason of ayahuasca. Like, I already know what's about to go down. Aaron Jones is about to go off. I think, man, even Randall Cobb may go off, Romeo Dobbs, and Lord forbid, Sammy Watkins week 1. This thing may actually become a reality now, and Allen Lazard is not going to take part in any of it. I'm feeling mad salty right now, and man, the show has barely even started.
Sammy Watkins, week 1 hero for the 3rd season in a row. I can't wait for it. Okay, more on those storylines throughout the show. But like I said at the top, we're here to help. You can send your questions on Twitter using the AskFFL hashtag, or drop a question in the chat, and we'll try to answer as many as we possibly can. Plus, our own Scott Pianowski is answering questions all morning long, live on Twitter. And speaking of guys that you can find on Twitter, Yahoo senior NFL writer Charles Robinson joins us now from Dallas. He's covering Bucs boys tonight. Charles, This is one of the games of the year last season. When these teams met, they combined for 60 points, nearly 900 total yards. First thing that comes to mind for me, however, is that Zeke Elliott was hardly involved last year. He finished with 39 scrimmage yards as Dallas didn't even try to run against that Tampa defensive front. So should we expect more of that this time around? What's the outlook for Zeke today and then for this year?
I would look at 2021 and expect the Cowboys to replicate Ezekiel Elliott's 2021 season because Tony Pollard is back up. I don't think they're going to be afraid to play the hot hand with Tony Pollard. The one thing I would be concerned about if you're a Tony Pollard owner and you're sitting there trying to balance out Zeke versus Tony Pollard is what happens in the red zone. The Cowboys are going to continue to lean on Zeke when it comes to the goal line. He's going to continue to get those touchdown opportunities. Now, Pollard, from a yardage standpoint, he could have a bigger year. They're going to play him more in the slot. They're going to try to use situations where they can get them both on the field at the same time. With the Cowboys, what I'd be worried about right now is Tyler Smith, the left tackle, starting obviously for Tyron Smith being out. I talked to somebody in the Cowboys organization this week, and he said, you know how we're coaching them up? We've told them, get in the way, stay in the way. Like, I don't think your coaching could get any more basic than that at left tackle. If you like Zeke last year, if you like those numbers last year, that's what I would be looking at in 2022.
That's a reasonable take. Let's talk about the other side of this thing. Tampa, they've been hit by every possible thing in the offseason. Injuries, retirements, just general weirdness. Tom Brady took a vacation in August, which you don't see that often. What's the vibe of that team right now, and how ready are they for week one?
It's weird. I got to be honest with you. It's definitely weird. And, there are things that people probably have not considered. I don't know how widely considered people even think about Antonio Brown anymore. But when you talk to people in the Buccaneers organization who are being honest, they will tell you, hey, look, when Antonio Brown was on the field last year, he was Tom Brady's most trusted guy. That's not to say anything of Mike Evans or Chris Godwin when he's ultimately out there. But that's a pretty big piece that people haven't factored into the mix not being there for Tom Brady. Then you talk about Rob Gronkowski. Tom's already talking about Rob Gronkowski. He's already said we've got a bunch of tight ends here, and none of them are Gronk, and that's him being nice. Okay, so and Gronk factors into the running game as well, the pass blocking scheme. That's another significant piece off an offensive line that has had attrition. Now, the one thing that I think they're a little worried about, everybody looks at the center position. Obviously, Ryan Jensen goes out in the preseason. Robert Hainsey, everybody's looking at that center and saying, how is pressure up the middle going to bother Tom Brady? I think you got to look at Luke Gedeke, okay, the rookie left guard. They're a little nervous about what's going to happen in terms of middle pressure. They know the Cowboys are going to attack them there. I think they think consistently teams are going to attack them there. It's a weird vibe in Tampa. I don't think they fully know what this is going to look like yet, considering everything that's happened on the field and off the field with Tom Brady. We'll find out a lot tonight.
All right, I got to ask you about the two just incredible revenge game scenarios that the NFL has given us. Number one, we have Baker Mayfield facing the Browns. We also get Russell Wilson getting the Seahawks on Monday night. Let's start with Baker. He doesn't get the benefit of a full offseason with Carolina, but he's much healthier now than when we last saw him. Do you think he's feeling dangerous against the Browns this week? He's talking a good game.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. And whether or not he had a full offseason with the Panthers really doesn't matter because he was the starter the second that they traded for him. Now, they went through all of the semantics and everything, and they played the game. But they knew from the moment they got Baker Mayfield in a room with Ben McAdoo, the offensive coordinator, they were like, this is our guy. We have a quarterback who is not just a first-read quarterback. He can actually do things second, third reads when he gets on the field. This was kind of something interesting when I was spending time with the Panthers. Someone in the organization told me, he's okay on the board. You get him in the classroom. They're like, but then when you get him out on the field, he kicks it up one additional level. He sees things so much better in the middle of the game flow. And that was something they were not getting from Sam Darnold that I think drove them crazy. I think they're really excited about Baker Mayfield. And as one person in the organization said to me, look, McCaffrey is healthy. He's on the field. Our offense looked pretty dang good when McCaffrey was on the field last year. We think it's going to look that much better with a very competent quarterback.
All right, I got 2 questions for you about Russ, and they're simple. Number 1, is he going to run again? Because that element had totally vanished from his game last season. Didn't have even 40 rushing yards in one game. And then who leads the Broncos in receiving this year? Is it Cortland Sutton? Is it Jerry Judy? Or is it somebody else?
They don't want Russ throwing. Like, here's the thing with the Broncos. When you talk to the Broncos, they go, look at our offensive line. We have a good offensive line. He shouldn't have to run. We should be able to have a very productive offense without Russ needing to run. So they're not going to design a lot of that in. Now, does it mean that Russ won't run? No, I would never say that. But you also have Javonte Williams. They have a good backfield that I think they feel like that would be one of the better running back tandems in football. Quinn Miners, the second-year offensive lineman. There are people in the organization who think there's the chance by the end of maybe this year or next year, Miners could be considered the best offensive lineman in all of football. Even if he doesn't play tackle, they think this guy could be considered on film by the end of maybe this year or year 3, could be the best offensive lineman in football. That being in front of Russ, they don't want Russ taking chances, banging himself up at this stage of his career. They want him to sit behind a very good offensive line. They want him to hand off to the running backs that they feel like are deep. So I don't look for design stuff from Russ. As far as the wide receiver position goes, what's interesting to me is they don't talk about Cortland Sutton because they don't have to worry about him. They're like, he's our one, clear as day. He's been great in practice. He and Russ have a connection. There's no question there. Now, what's interesting with Jerry Judy, if you saw anybody in the organization that Russ took a special interest in once he got into the building, it was Judy. Brought him into the quarterback meetings. I was told that in some of his private talks with Jerry Judy, Russ told him, you could be one of the best wide receivers in football. It's my job to help you get there. And this is part of the process we're going to go through in terms of you coming into quarterback meetings and us spending this time together. That said, I still think Cortland Sutton far and away is their number 1 wide receiver because they have no worries whatsoever about getting him up to speed. He's there.
Thanks so much, Charles. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the game. Keep up with all the latest NFL news here on Yahoo Sports and get more of Charles on our NFL podcast, You Pod to Win the Game. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, with lots of flex decisions every week, let's look at some players who have solidified their place in fantasy rosters. Finally, it's easy, presented by AutoTrader. Just like AutoTrader makes it easy to buy a car, these players are easy picks to plug into your lineup each and every week. Matt, Tank, let's send it over to you for your must-starts moving forward.
Oh, Tank, my buddy, my friend, it's so good to be back with you. It's so good to see you. You look great. You look fantastic. But let's start off. How could we start this anywhere else? The guy who's graduated to a starting spot in your fantasy football lineup, it's Brandon Ayuk, baby. We're back on the Brandon Ayuk train like it never left the station, man, because here's the deal. Tank, we had a lot of fun with Brandon Ayuk last year, but the reality of the situation is from week 8 on, the guy was a top 20 fantasy receiver, and that was with Jimmy Garoppolo last year. I've said all offseason, I basically since the moment they drafted Trey Lance, really, that his game, even if we have some questions about how good he's going to be, how up to speed he's going to be from the jump, his game overlaps with Brandon Ayuk better than it did with Jimmy Garoppolo because he can hit those passes deep and outside the numbers that Jimmy just, God bless him, he loves throwing over the middle. He's really good at it. Sometimes he gets him into trouble. But, man, there has been a steady drumbeat all offseason that Brandon Ayuk has been that guy for the San Francisco 49ers. I think it's kind of like a coin flip as to who has more receiving yards this year, Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel. As good as Samuel is, I think Ayuk is ready to take that next step. He has been my guy for a couple of years. This is the year, Tank, where every single week, if you're going to try to do some Ayuk nonsense or not say his full name, you're going to be regretting it, buddy. Get on the train, man. This is happening this year.
Well, Harmon, you know why I wear my Tony Montana shirt? Because you're a fantasy guru that doesn't fly straight. You know what I'm saying, man? Because I feel like you're peddling a little bit of reception deception right here. Because we both know that the 49ers have one of the most run-heavy teams, offensive schemes in the entire NFL. And we also know that Kyle Shanahan likes to protect his young quarterbacks. So what are we really projecting for Brandon Ayuk to do this year when you have George Kittle, when he's healthy, that's going to be on the field? You have Deebo Samuel that got all that money, so you know he's going to get a bunch of targets. And then obviously the guy who I'm going with, Eli Mitchell. Like, he's going to be getting about 19 carries in the run game. Whenever he's healthy, he averages 19 carries and about 86.5 rush yards. So when you got a guy like that he's going to feed when he's the dude, how do you expect Brandon Ayuk to be the guy? Because when he finished off last year, who was he with as far as like his fantasy club? Van Jefferson, Marvin Jones, KJ Osborne, Tim Patrick, AJ Green. I don't know if that's somebody that I could depend in my lineup 24/7, dog, but I guess we will find out. It's a new season, but to start off, his name is Brandon Ayuk for now.
Well, we'll take that, Tank. I'm with you that Eli Mitchell actually makes for the better play in week 1 because those boys in Chicago are running with little puddles coming up in that weather there, man. It's not looking good. So I'm with you on Eli Mitchell. I'm also with you on, let's stay with like the 49ers connection here, man. Mike McDaniel goes down to Miami. The first free agent signing of the entire period was Chase Edmonds to the Miami Dolphins. And sometimes in the NFL, you just got to follow the money. I think this one makes sense. And I'm pretty bullish on Chase Edmonds, not just as like an RB3 where he was drafted. I was ranking him coming into this year as like more like a low-end RB2. I like him in week 1 against New England Patriots in a game that should be kind of slow-paced, low-scoring. No one's going to pull ahead from the other. You know, I think Chase Edmonds is going to have a lot of opportunity here as the clear-cut RB1. And I think the reason that Mike McDaniel wanted to go out and sign a guy like Chase Edmonds to be, I think, the pretty clear-cut RB1 of this backfield, he moves the chains, man. It's 27% of his rush attempts last year went for a first down, did Chase Edmonds. I really like him in week 1. I think he's graduated to be kind of at least an every week flex, but I think he could be more of an RB2 this year.
No, I love that, dog. I mean, Chase Edmonds, he definitely has juice, and I like the way McDaniels kind of draws up those schemes for the run game. I really like that play, not only this week, but for the whole season. But my guy is going to be, and ironic enough, I didn't expect Charles to talk about him, is Jerry Judy. I mean, when you look at that Denver Broncos offense, everyone's been high on Cortland Sutton, but one thing I noticed in the preseason, we'll see if it holds true in the regular season, that the quarterbacks were targeting the hell out of the slot. Jerry Judy, when he was coming out of Alabama, he was one of the best route runners. They were kind of comparing him to Calvin Ridley and some of these other guys. And so I feel like when you have a strong running game like the Denver Broncos, where you don't have to dedicate an extra guy to try to stop Javonte Williams or Melvin Gordon, whoever they're feeding the ball to, they're going to pay attention to Cortland Sutton. Now you have Jerry Judy roaming the slot. We've already seen what he can do with a guy like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. There's no reason that Russ can't do that with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Judy. So I believe that he's going to be somebody you can lock in your lineup every single week, and he's going to ball out.
Yeah, man, Tank, even if you insulted me with that reception deception nonsense, I like the way you think about that one. I like it, Tank. All right, everybody, remember, Auto Trader has the largest selection of new and used vehicles. Shop based on your personalized budget and get your car delivered straight to your door. Visit autotrader.com today.
All right, it's a new season, which brings a new segment to FFL. It's time to bring the props. We each highlight a favorite prop bet and decide if we agree or disagree. That's pretty simple. Matt, get us started.
All right, boys, I'm going over 46.5 receiving yards for Rashad Bateman in week 1. Man, I really love Bateman as a player. Everybody knows that. I'm super high on him as a guy that can be a pretty big difference maker for the Ravens. I mean, they haven't had a receiver like Rashad Bateman, who's a true X receiver, can win off press coverage, can win deep down the field, short, intermediate, is a true #1 future X receiver for Lamar Jackson. I'm taking the over here on 46.5 in week 1. I think this is the lowest it'll be set all year.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to agree with it just for the simple fact that the target share in Baltimore is going to be really small anyway. It's going to be between Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman, so I'll go with that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on board with this as well. I'll take the over on this one. We know that it's Andrews. We know that it's Bateman. We don't really know who the #3 option is there. My prop this week, I'm sticking with that Niners-Chicago game, and I'm going with Eli Mitchell. This one has actually moved to 61.5 rushing yards. I got it earlier in the week at 59.5 rushing yards. I don't see any way he doesn't hit it. First of all, the run is going to be in play all day for the Niners. #2, he rushed for 137 yards against Chicago last year. That was a game without George Kittle in it. He might get this total, I think, by halftime in this thing, and I think he definitely exceeds it. He actually hit this number 8 times last year, basically every time he was healthy. Tank, do you agree?
I actually tweeted this out on Tuesday as a prop that I was in love with, so absolutely I'm with you, Rev.
Yeah, I'm with you too, man. I'm with you too. I think this is an easy over. I think he could get 100 in this game. All these player prop lines for the 49ers are too low here in week 1, weather notwithstanding.
Yep, agreed. Tank, what do you got?
Well, I'm going with Kyler Murray over 257.5 pass yards. I actually liked it when it was 269.5 early in the week. When you have Kyler Murray going against the third splash brother, as I like to call him, Patrick Mahomes, we're expecting a lot of firepower in this matchup. It has the highest total on the slate. And with the Kansas City Chiefs defense giving up the 6th most passing yards per game in 2021, I feel like just the competition of playing against Patrick Mahomes, the game floor is going to easily get Kyler over this number. So I feel that this will be pretty easy money as far as Kyler Murray getting over 257.5. Thoughts?
Can we get more agreement between Harmon and Tank?
No, I'm not with Tank on this one. I think Kyler Murray struggles here in week 1. He's missing DeAndre Hopkins. He's missing Rondale Moore. Whatever. I mean, Rondale Moore, listen, he actually, that might help him throw the ball further downfield, not throwing to fake wide receiver Rondale Moore. But nevertheless, I think the Cardinals struggle to get off the map here in week 1, even though usually the early part of the season is their time.
Poor Rondale Moore. He's not even playing this week, and he's taking abuse from Harmon. I'm gonna take the over on this. I actually like Murray in a shootout of a game. At least he's got Hollywood Brown. He's got a healthy Zach Ertz today, so I do think he gets there. We will see who's right and who's wrong next week. We'll track our wins, our losses, our sweeps all season, and eventually we will crown a Bring the Props champion at the end of the season. It is time now for our first break here on Fantasy Football Live. When we come back, we get spicy with our flex predictions. Stick with us.
You want your sports news in more than just a few characters? With the help of a bunch of different characters?
You play better than me, I respect this like you.
He beat us, yes. I'm not a ball player. Prince had hops.
Hosted by everyone's favorite character.
Only time we'll tell if that's a lie or a big-ass lie.
You're Calais Campbell's brother, so Calais got the most sacks that he has is on me.
Give us 2 minutes and we'll give you The Rush. Weekday mornings on Yahoo Sports.
I'm Minty Betts, joined by Jared Quay and Pam Maldonado, and we're here to give you our best bets of the week. It's time for some Sunday Night Football. Monday Night Football takes place in Vegas, baby. Jared, let's start with you. What is your pick for this game?
I'm picking not to watch it. I don't know. I'm not liking either of these teams, but for some reason I got a feeling the under's gonna hit.
I loved both of your bets, so hopefully mine isn't the one that ruins it for us three.
I like the over, and I'm not gonna mess with sides here.
Thought you were a fan of the Raiders. This is supposed to be the Minty versus Jared game.
I'm not gonna look stupid and lose. I think I'm gonna go with the over.
Stand by your team. Stand by your team, Minty.
In the player pool to spice up your lineups. Tank, why don't you get us started?
Oh man, I'm going with my man Robert Woods, the #1 receiver now for your Tennessee Titans, and it's pretty simple to me where you have a guy who the Titans are the #1 rush team in the league, and so everyone's going to be trying to put an extra man into the box. Robert Woods is going to probably have my man Adoree Jackson on him. And Adoree Jackson, if you watch any highlights coming out of Giants camp, was getting honey roasted by every wide receiver they put on him, whether it was Rondell Robinson, Kadarius Toney before he was a little nicked up in camp. Like, they were roasting my dude. And so I feel like with the Titans making sure everyone is accounted for in the box and getting one-on-one coverage on Adoree Jackson, Robert Woods should be able to go Bobby Trees full out on my man Adoree today. So that's my spicy take for the flex.
I love that call. I hope it's right. I'm going to go with George Pickens, one of the buzziest camp stories that we saw this preseason. He was basically a daily highlight in your Twitter feed. Lot of buzz on him, a lot of hype. He's got size, he's got speed, he's got physicality. He has earned, we think, a starting spot for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That team is no longer quarterbacked by Ben Roethlisberger, who's only looking 4 or 5 yards downfield. We've got Mitch Trubisky driving it deep downfield. That is going to suit Pickens' game.
All right, I'll pick up where Andy left off, and I'll go with another rookie receiver here in Jahan Dotson. Man, well, you're going to need some Captain Morgan maybe to be clinking around the glass there while you're watching a Carson Wentz-led offense there in Washington. But listen, I do think Jahan Dotson's got a couple things going for him. Number one, Jaguars secondary is still one of the weaker parts of their team as they are rebuilding. I also think Jahan Dotson's like guaranteed to be out there on pretty much 100% of the snaps. He kind of ran as the number 2 wide receiver in training camp throughout the entire offseason. And look, this is a guy who is a really, really, really good player. He beats zone coverage at a really high rate. He can win short, deep, and intermediate. I also think he's a guy that can get those off-target passes from Carson Wentz because he was used to doing that in college from his quarterback. Oh my gosh, what a rough set of quarterbacks there at Penn State last year. Jahan Dotson, if you're desperate, I would even start a guy like Jahan Dotson over Chris Godwin because I know he's going to be playing every single snap, and I'm not so sure we are there with Chris Godwin at this point. We at FFL and our partner Captain Morgan Original Spiced Rum are ready to give credit where credit's due through the 3rd annual NFL Fan of the Year contest presented by Captain Morgan. Do you know a fan who's spicing it up by bringing their all to every game day their own cheeky way? Now through October 3rd, Captain Morgan and the NFL are on a mission to recognize extraordinary fans who rally others to spice up the game and give those deserving fans a chance to go to Super Bowl 57. Visit NFL.com/fan of the year to nominate yourself or someone you know today. And remember, great things happen when you spice it up. All right, Tank. Listen, this is your time, buddy. This is your moment. Give us the DFS values of the week, pal.
Oh my goodness, it's already back. What it do, baby? It's your boy T-Money coming back with my week 1. Yes, it is week 1. Ballers on the budget. Now, first I'm starting off with Derek Carr. They're going against the Chargers. $27, and it's pretty plain and simple to me. Who does he have throwing to him? He's throwing to Devontae Adams, one of the best wide receivers in the league, Darren Waller, one of the best tight ends in the league, Hunter Renfrow, one of the best route runners in the league. And you have all those guys to throw to, and you have to try to go up against touchdown Jesus, Justin Herbert. He's going to have to try to score more points than God to try to keep up, which means my man Derek Carr at $27 is definitely a baller on a budget. Now we're going with Aaron Jones at running back in Minnesota, $22, and it's pretty plain and simple. Like, Devontae Adams is gone. Who is the second most targeted guy on Green Bay's team last year? It was my man Aaron Jones. So I understand that people are going to get twisted because, oh, it's going to be Aaron Jones. Oh, it's going to be A.J. Dillon. Like, both of these cats are going to eat, and he's going to be heavily used in the pass game. You're getting this dude that's going to get all this volume in the run and pass game for $22. I'm definitely going to get me some of that. Now at wide receiver, it's already a matchup that I talked about. People are hating on Kyler, but I'm going with it. His college teammate, Marquis Hollywood Brown. He's going from a run-heavy system in Baltimore to a pass-heavy system now in Arizona. And the beautiful thing to me is, yeah, DeAndre Hopkins is out. Oh, my man Zach Ertz has been a little bit banged up. So that means my man Marquis Brown is going to get all those targets in a game that has the highest total on the slate, going against Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and all those weapons they got on the opposite side of the ball. With him at $18 and the target share that he's going to get out of all these other wide receivers, I think that is extreme value for a wide receiver with the upside of Marquis Hollywood Brown. And at tight end, I'm going with Kyle Pitts. Now, this dude is $16. He's going against a really tough Saints defense that really holds it down against tight ends. But this is the one thing that stands out to me. If you listen to all the fantasy experts coming into the league, coming into this season, what do they say? Kyle Pitts is one of the top fantasy tight ends this year. So why is he $16 in a tough matchup? Travis Kelce has the second toughest matchup on the slate this week, and he's still $28. So yeah, I'm going to gladly take Kyle Pitts at the 5-finger discount, regardless of who he's going against, because I know my man Marcus Mariota is going to be targeting my boy heavily. And so, you know what? The T is for the money, and the money is something that you will not have in your lineup if you do not get my picks in there. Now, let's go ahead and take it to my boy Rev for the next seg. You dig?
Well, Tank, it's actually going to be me. But look, those were all great picks. You people out there, you can still get in on the action in Daily Fantasy this morning on Yahoo. Our big $500,000 baller contest is open, and you can win cash prizes. First place takes home $100,000. Visit the Daily Fantasy Football lobby and join in on the fun. If there's one thing fantasy players love, it's a list. But we'll get to that in a second, Tank. You and I are going to handle the play calling. We're going to handle the user questions here. Let's jump in with this first one, Tank. Me and you, buddy. Jay Nixon says Le'Veon Bell KOs Adrian Peterson in a farcical boxing exhibition between NFL veterans. I mean, Jay, come on, that's disrespectful. These guys need to see that too.
Oh man, it was amazing.
Oh my God.
I mean,
it was
like,
absolutely
he almost tore his ACL on the way down to the mat. It was wild.
I'll say though, I honestly might rather start Adrian Peterson if he was suiting up instead of some of these running backs, Tank. Jay needs one in PPR. Who is my knockout this week? Kenny Gainwell for Philadelphia, Jamal Williams for Detroit, or Kenyon Drake in Baltimore? Tank, my God, which one of these dusty backs do you want?
I mean, the thing is this, like, we don't know if it's going to be Mike Davis or Kenyon Drake that's going to get the lion's share of the carries in Baltimore, but the one thing we do know is that they have one of the better matchups on the slate. Both of these guys should get some burn today, and so I would rather go with that, understanding that I have a feeling that the Ravens are going to go out and dominate, and they're going to be run heavy. They're going to try to set their identity from the start, so I'll go with Kenyon Drake.
All right, beautiful. I'm hearing rumors that Andy Behrens might be back with us, so I'm going to send him this question. Standard League from Jen here needs a flex between DJ Chark, Melvin Gordon, Hunter Renfrow, or Damian Harris. These are some actual, some of them are actually really good players here, Andy, so you take this one.
Oh, what a note to return on. This is fantastic. It's a standard league. I'm ancient, so I grew up playing standard leagues. I know what this is all about. I'm going to take Damian Harris here. I'm going to go with the guy, especially if I don't have to worry about how many receptions these guys are getting. I'm just going to go ahead and take the guy who scored 15 touchdowns last year. Is it a great matchup? No, this could be a low-scoring game against Miami. It's questionable what kind of quality we're going to see from the Patriots offense this week, but I still want Harris. I know they're going to bank on him. I feel like he's going to get at least 15 touches in this one. Really good shot to find the end zone.
Hey, I love that. All right, next one up comes in from Nicholas Brown. Doomed to choose between Kareem Hunt or Breece Hall as my RB2 in the PPR. The only other option is James Robinson on the bench. I'm definitely not answering this one. So, Tank, you can take this one because I don't like either one.
Oh, why are you going to put this evil on me? Oh, wow. All right, so, yeah, let's just go through it this way. I don't think that the game flow works for my man Breece Hall this week. So this is going to be between James Robinson, who's working his way back off of Achilles, and we're not exactly sure how much burn he's going to get, or Kareem Hunt kind of maintaining his role as the pass catcher in Cleveland. That should be a competitive game against Carolina. I think I'm going to go with Hunt when I talk through it that way.
Hey, that makes sense. That makes sense to me.
All right. Next one we've got here is from Dialed In. Dialed In is asking, it's flex spot, Montgomery, I assume that's David Montgomery, Dameon Pierce, or Kadarius Toney. Oh, this one's a gift. I'm going to take Dameon Pierce here. He's gonna tote the rock. Going to get the start for the Houston Texans. He's looked fantastic throughout the preseason. He's been an absolute revelation. I think he's an easy play here. Montgomery would be a decent fallback, but again, it's really sloppy conditions in Chicago and an offense that we can't feel good about, an offensive line we can't feel good about. So for me, that is clearly Dameon Pierce. All right. Next one coming to us is from HJK, and they are asking, it's a half PPR league. Drake London, he's fun, big rookie, or Ramondre Stevenson. I will send this one to Harmon. What do you think?
Yeah, this one's close. I mean, I don't love the idea of playing Drake London here in his first NFL game, even though I'm a big Drake London fan. We got to admit that he missed a lot of time with that injury after a preseason game week 1. There is something to be said about that. We don't know how much he's necessarily going to play. I think I'd go with Ramondre Stevenson this week. We don't know what the backfield split is going to look like necessarily between Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, but I think we can have some level of confidence that Stevenson is going to have the passing down work. So I'm going to go with him there, even though I like Drake London for the long term. Week 1 against a Saints defense that's got some pretty good cornerbacks back there. I'm not necessarily going to go that way in his first NFL game.
It's a reasonable call. I can back it. It is time for our next break here on Fantasy Football Live. Still ahead, Minty is back in the sportsbook with more props and a lock of the week. Don't go away.
You want your sports news in more than just a few characters? With the help of a bunch of different characters?
You play better than me, I respect this shit like you.
He beat us, yes. I'm not a ball player. Prince had hops.
Hosted by everyone's favorite character.
Only time will tell if that's a lie or a big-ass lie.
You're Calais Campbell's brother, so Calais got the most sacks that he has is on me.
Give us 2 minutes and we'll give you The Rush. Weekday mornings on Yahoo Sports.
I'm Minty Betts, joined by Jared Quay and Pam Maldonado, and we're here to give you our best bets of the week. It's time for some Sunday Night Football. Monday Night Football takes place in Vegas, baby. Jared, let's start with you. What is your pick for this game?
I'm picking not to watch it. I don't know. I'm not liking either of these teams, but for some reason I got a feeling the under's gonna hit.
I loved both of your bets, so hopefully mine isn't the one that ruins it for us 3.
I like the over, and I'm not gonna mess with sides here.
Thought you were a fan of the Raiders. This is supposed to be the Minty versus Jared game.
I'm not gonna look stupid and lose. I think I'm gonna go with the over.
Stand by your team. Stand by your team, Minty.
All right, we are back here in season 17 of Fantasy Football Live, looking at the injury updates from around the league. It's not pretty. Only week 1, and it's not pretty. George Kittle inactive today as the 49ers take on the Bears. He's dealing with a groin injury, picked it up in practice earlier in the week. Green Bay's Allen Lazard unlikely to play against the Vikings. He's got an ankle injury. Saints wideout Michael Thomas, this is some good news. He will go today against Atlanta. He'd been limited in practice with a hamstring injury. Great to see him back on the field. And finally tonight, Chris Godwin listed as questionable against Dallas after that late season ACL tear, but he is likely to play.
It's never easy to recover from an injury. Running backs, receivers, even coaches need a game plan to tackle their health and make a comeback. That's why I've teamed up with Novartis, the makers of Leqvio and Glycerin. Here are this week's comeback players who are ready to return to your starting rosters.
All right, Tank, let's get to our comeback players. Who are you keeping an eye on?
Man, Charles just kind of teed everything up for me. Christian McCaffrey. I mean, this guy played, 3 games in 20, 7 games in 21. And so people are always talking about Sam Darnold seeing ghosts when he was in New York, and I have a feeling that a lot of fantasy managers were seeing ghosts whenever Christian McCaffrey was like the next best man up on their fantasy drafts. But this is the thing, my guy's healthy now. He's going to play a huge role in that offense. And like Charles said, they feel like they have a better quarterback, a more competent quarterback that can spread the ball around than Baker Mayfield. You have some weapons that are going to complement him like DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and some of these guys on the outside. And I feel like they try to solidify that offensive line here in the draft and with free agent pickups. And so I feel Chris McCaffrey is going to bounce back. He's going to get a lot of volume, and I think that he's going to be one of those guys that are in contention for comeback player of the year.
Yeah, I like it. Hope that's right. I'm going to go with Juju Smith-Schuster here. He played only 5 games last season in Pittsburgh, of course. Missed some time during camp as well with a knee issue, but he has declared himself 100%. He's another one of those guys that was basically a daily highlight throughout camp. And he's not in Pittsburgh anymore, which means he's not tied to Ben Roethlisberger anymore, targeting him like 4 yards, 5 yards downfield. He is getting to every level with Patrick Mahomes. This is a fantastic quarterback situation. Remember, Juju has a 1,400-yard season on his resume. He's got a 111-catch season on his resume. He's only 25 years old. We have nearly 300 vacated targets available in Kansas City. I think Juju's going to get maybe not most of them, but 130, 140. That is definitely in play.
Yeah, I like it. And another guy that I like is Michael Thomas. I could have gone King Henry there and then just be full homer with the Tennessee Titans and then Christian McCaffrey with Stanford. But Michael Thomas is a guy that played 7 games in 2020 and then Nathan in 2021. And I kind of like the setup for the Saints here. I understand that there's some issues on the offensive line and there's no Drew Brees anymore. Jameis Winston has shown that he can push the ball down the field. He may turn it over a lot too, but I mean, that one season when he threw up over 30 touchdowns, I mean, I like what I see out of that. And look at the complement of people that are around Michael Thomas. He has Amari, Alvin Kamara. You have my man Chris Olave. You have Jarvis Landry. You have Taysom Hill at tight end. Like, you have a lot of people that you can exploit in a defense where you just can't try to target one person. So if they try to make this offense Michael Thomas-centric like it was in the past, I feel like he has a lot of space and opportunity to ball out if he stays healthy.
Again, hope that's right. Thank you, Tank. We'll be monitoring those players for the next couple weeks to see how they bounce back.
Those were your comeback players for week 1, presented by Leqvio and Glycerin. To learn more about Leqvio, talk to your doctor and visit leqvio.com.
Oh, man, the only thing I was looking forward to here in week 1 of this year was dunking on Tank, of course. But the one thing I was looking forward to more than that, even more, is sitting here in the sports book with my good friend Minty Betts. Minty, you're going to give us some props here for some of these primetime games. Hit us with your first one, starting with the guy who decided to take an extended summer vacation after taking an extended one in the spring.
Yeah, as if no one's already talking about him. I'm going with Tom Brady under half an interception. So essentially for him to not throw an interception for the Sunday night game at even money. Now, the Cowboys and the Bucs faced off in week 1 last season like they will tonight. And in that game, Tom Brady threw 2 interceptions. So I think the over is favored here because of that game, because of that narrative. But for the most part, Tom Brady takes very good care of the ball, given how the volume of his throws. So I like this to be a cleaner and slower game, and no interceptions for Tom Brady at even money. Next up, my other prop will be CeeDee Lamb over 5.5 receptions made at -140. Now, Dallas is a pass-heavy team with the 6th most targets to wide receivers. And although Lamb kind of regressed in the last several games last season, we're going to see a lot of production from him because there's no more Amari Cooper. The Bucs have a really fierce defense, allowing the 3rd fewest yards per pass attempt, but CeeDee is definitely going to be a priority for Dak here. So I think this number is set pretty low, which is why I'm going over 5.5 receptions made for CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, I love that one. I think CeeDee Lamb could lead the NFL in receiving yards this year. I think he could be the best receiver in fantasy. So love your call to get him off on a hot start here. Man, that's going to be a fun game. Bucs and Cowboys, we're all looking forward to that. Ooh, this next one here, the Monday night game, Seahawks, Russell Wilson revenge. Oh, God, don't care about that. Talk to me about Gino Smith, Minty. I love this.
Oh, yes, so much more exciting than Russell Wilson. It would be Gino Smith. I'm going under his passing yards at 207.5 passing yards, -115. I think the Seahawks are going to be a mess this season, especially in Game 1 versus a really tough Broncos defense. Last season in Gino's 4 starts, he exceeded this total only once, and that was just by a couple of yards. He has great weapons to pass to, but I think he's going to be under pressure so much that his targets aren't really going to see the ball. So I'm going under 207.5 passing yards for Gino Smith. And for my second prop, I mean, it wouldn't be a Minty appearance here without a kicker prop here. I'm going with Brandon Mcmanus over 2.5 extra points made at +115. I do expect the Broncos to blow out the Seahawks here, which means there will be quite a bit of scoring for Denver here. 2.5 extra points made kind of seems like a lot though, because last season Mcmanus was all over the place. In some games he recorded only 1 extra point made, in some games he recorded 5. But this offense has been boosted, they've leveled up, so I do expect Denver to score enough where they will require Mcmanus to come in with the assist. So I'm going over 2.5 extra points made for him.
Like that call, Minty, although I'm not sure how I feel about the Broncos in week 1, but that's a topic for another time. Minty, give us your lock of the week here in week 1 before we let you go.
All right, my lock of the week is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers +6.5, +7 over the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is certainly a different looking Steelers team than we're used to seeing in the past. But let's not forget that Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season as an NFL head coach. Divisional games tend to be very close, and I think this is going to be really close. 6.5 points is way too much to give Cincy. They're going to suffer from the Super Bowl hangover here. And Pittsburgh's defense, I mean, they're fierce, right? They recorded the most sacks last season, and the Bengals allowed some of the most QB sacks on Joey B here. So I really like the Steelers to keep it close. I also like them to win straight up at +220.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, it doesn't really matter what Mitch and the boys are doing over there on offense when TJ Watt is kind of crushing the Bengals. Remade offensive line, fair enough, but nevertheless, I agree with you, Minty. I think 6.5 is way too much for the Steelers there. You people out there can get in on the action. New users at BetMGM can take advantage of a special offer this Sunday. Bet $10 on any game. Yes, any game, and you win $200. Sign up today at betmgm.com/YahooVIP.
All right, it's Make Your Pick time, where we assist a few viewers with some of their messiest sit-start decisions this week. Let's see what the people are asking. I'm joined by Tank Williams. This is going to be fun. Let's take our first one here. It's Micho Cinco. Micho needs, wow, congrats to AJ Green for making his way into this question. AJ Green, Robert Woods, Amari Cooper. We're only sitting one. Who are you sitting, Tank?
Well, me, I'm not sitting AJ Green because of the projected game flow that I talked about earlier. And so then it's like, which quarterback do I like better out of Ryan Tannehill and Jacoby Brissett? I think it's Ryan Tannehill. Which matchup do I like better out of Carolina secondary or the Giants secondary? I believe I like the matchup against the Giants better. So I'm going with AJ Green and Robert Woods. Bobby Trees, let's do it.
Yeah, I probably agree with you there. I don't love AJ Green necessarily for the full season, but in a matchup where you just know the ball is going in the air. You and I both took the over on Kyler Murray's yardage this week, so we got to imagine there's going to be a little something for AJ Green. Exactly. Let's see what's next. Try to help somebody else out here. Next question is, pick 3. It's half PPR. Debo, Jerry Judy, Amon-Ra St. Brown, or Bobby Trees. I'll lead this one off. Man, I'm getting a little skittish on Debo Samuel here, given the conditions in Chicago and all the rain. We love Jerry Judy. We love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I honestly don't think he should even be involved in this question. I'm still gonna lean Debo in this one at Chicago over Bobby Trees, but Tank, if you wanna argue with that, I'll hear it.
That's the thing, and I'm with you. Like, when you look at the videos on social media of the weather in Chicago right now, there may not be a lot of passing, especially when you think about how Shanahan likes to establish the run. So I can see, but that's the thing. Debo would still be involved in some way and fashion in the run game as well. So with him being a premier athlete, I think I would lean on Debo, and don't let the conditions scare you, but I understand. So it's going to be Debo, Judy, and Amon-Ra for me as well.
Yeah, I'd hate to lose my opening week matchup because I left Debo on the bench. They have so many ways that they can manufacture touches
we can't
for
do
him. Let's take one more question here and make your pick. I'm not even going to try to say that name. It's PPR, Edmonds, Breece Hall, or Kareem Hunt, Jameis, or Kirk Cousins. Thanks. Don't know how many we're starting here, but I would take Chase Edmonds over all these guys. If we're only starting one, it is definitely Chase Edmonds for me. If I have to start another, it's probably Kareem Hunt. We don't exactly know what that backfield is going to look like for the Jets this week. At quarterback, listen, I'm excited about Jameis this season. I'm glad he's back and healthy. I would still play Kirk Cousins here. I mean, Kirk Cousins in a remade offense that we think is finally going to join the 21st century. I'm really excited about Kirk and about all your receivers basically tied to that offense. Do you agree, Tank?
Yeah, I mean, I think Harmon made some really great points about, damn, did I just say that? But yeah, he did make some great points about Chase Edmonds and that Miami run game. I think that this would be more of a Michael Carter game for the Jets than a Breece Hall, so that's why I'm kind of on that. So if it's two running backs, it would be Kareem Hunt with Chase Edmonds. And Man, I know some people may be scared off by how the Rams performed and try to attribute that to what Minnesota may look like in week 1, but nah, man, we got Captain Kirk, we got Justin Jefferson, we got Adam Thielen, you got Dalvin Cook. You have a lot of weapons right there, offensive-minded head coach who's going to try to get up to a fast start against a team that's going to try to push him in the Green Bay Packers. I really like what Kirk Cousins will likely do this week, even though I don't mind Jameis, especially with the matchup between the Saints wide receivers and Atlanta Falcons DBs, but it's Kirk Cousins for me.
Yep, we agree. Like the call. We're going to keep taking your questions later in the show, but right now, let's send it to Matt for some last-minute sleepers.
Oh, yeah. These aren't just your little traditional sleepers. I'm going pretty deep with these cuts here. And first one is, listen, if you're struggling at tight end, you had George Kittle, whatever. Tough scene there. You've heard some of the obvious options. I also want you to consider VCU's finest, Mo Alley-Cox, man. Listen, he's been talked up for a long time as a potential breakout tight end. I think this is the year he really takes that next step. I mean, this is a guy who's taking over the Jack Doyle spot in addition to his own role as the downfield tight end there in Indianapolis. I've been high on him as a late-round draft pick all offseason. He fits the type of mold like in that late career Logan Thomas, the pride of Lynchburg, Virginia, or Darren Waller, like a guy who has had experience at the position but is now ready to take that next step. If you are desperate at tight end, like I said, you've got George Kittle, your nasty league mates out there, picked up all the other options that could be on the waiver wire that you could use as a replacement. Mo Alley-Cox, widely available. I think he actually could potentially sneak into like the top 15 tight ends if he really has the role that I'm envisioning for him this year. Next one up, no DeAndre Hopkins, no Rondale Moore. We're going to party like it's 2015, baby. Yeah, I know it's Sammy Watkins week 1, but it's also AJ Green week 1 out here, man. AJ Green was pretty good last year, all things considered. Like, he was impressive in terms of getting open, in terms of winning contested catches. He was a player who, like, people completely wrote off. People still kind of want to write him off. He was in, like, the wide receiver 80, 90 range in terms of where he was going in drafts. Give me a break. He's going to be like a potential top 30 receiver this week with all of the guys out for Arizona. Yeah, I know Hollywood Brown's going to go off. I agree. He's going to have a big game, but AJ Green also going to catch some passes here as the clear-cut number 2 outside receiver. Honestly, if you like have a lot of bench spots, if you start a lot of wide receivers, I wouldn't be surprised if AJ Green can actually give you some usable weeks here in the first 6 weeks without DeAndre Hopkins, and maybe even a little bit going forward. So if you're desperate, those are 2 guys to consider. 2 guys that you considered in your drafts, and that was a good idea because they're good players. Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert. Let's check out what they had to say about some fantasy action in the debut episode of Eckler's Edge Season 2 with your boy as the host. Obviously, we have like a top 5 pick here in Austin Eckler. I mean, you said to me the other day you weren't like aware of how high you were going
I really
in
wasn't.
fantasy.
I was like, dang, people were like taking me like top 4, top 5. Like,
I'm surprised that you're out of the top 5. Like, if I hear that, I'm surprised. I think you should be way up there.
I know. It was like, oh, you scored 20 touchdowns. People like that apparently in fantasy.
That's what I thought.
Well, the thing is, though, everybody comes after. It's like, well, he scored 20 last year. He's not going to do it again. He's going to regress, like touchdowns per target.
We'll see, man. Hey.
I'm taking you first overall if I'm in a fantasy league.
Oh my God, see, I told you, man. Wait for this guy forever, man. Sheesh.
You want your sports news in more than just a few characters? With the help of a bunch of different characters?
You play better than me, I respect this like you.
He beat us, yes. I'm not a ball player. Prince had hops.
Hosted by everyone's favorite character.
Only time will tell if that's a lie or a big-ass lie.
You're Calais Campbell's brother, so Calais got the most sacks that he has is on me.
Give us 2 minutes and we'll give you The Rush. Weekday mornings on Yahoo Sports.
I'm Minty Betts, joined by Jared Quay and Pam Maldonado, and we're here to give you our best bets of the week. It's time for some Sunday Night Football. Monday Night Football takes place in Vegas, baby. Jared, let's start with you. What is your pick for this game?
I'm picking not to watch it. I don't know. I'm not liking either of these teams, but for some reason I got a feeling the under's gonna hit.
I loved both of your bets, so hopefully mine isn't the one that ruins it for us 3.
I like the over, and I'm not going to mess with sides here.
Thought you were a fan of the Raiders. This is supposed to be the Minty versus Jared game.
I'm not going to look stupid and lose. I think I'm going to go with the over.
Stand by your team. Stand by your team, Minty.
All right, just moments away from kickoff. Let's get to as many social media questions as we can. We are going to start with NC Vol fan. It's flex spot, 1 point PPR. Chase Edmonds, he's come up a few times on this show. Christian Kirk, David Montgomery, or Adam Thielen. These are all pretty good options. Tank, what do you like here?
Oh man, 1 point PPR. It's crazy, but can I really say Christian Kirk? Because the dude looked like he was going to be a target monster in the limited time that he had with Trevor Lawrence on the field in the preseason. And I really don't mind the matchup with Washington Commanders. Oh, man, I may sound like I'm going out on a limb, but this is a new season, new start, and I'm kind of liking Christian Kirk right now.
I hope that's the right answer. I have a weird amount of Trevor Lawrence, probably more than I should. Let's go to another question here, see if we can help some more people out. This one is from Brian. Brian is asking Deontay Johnson. Oh, man, these are some Harmon favorites. Deontay Johnson, Godwin, or Miles Sanders for my flex. It's PPR. He thanks us. Thank you. Harmon, who do you like here?
Yeah, a couple of Harmon favorites and then Miles Sanders hanging out there in the background. I actually think Miles Sanders might have a decent role here in week 1, but I'm not going that direction. I already said I'd like to wait a week on Chris Godwin, so give me Deontay Johnson here. Even if he came up a little banged up in practice this week, looks like he's going to play a full snap share. And look, Johnson, I don't care what the haters say. He's just a little pop gun receiver because of Ben Roethlisberger. None of that stuff matters. New quarterback, new season, like Tank said. I think Deontay Johnson goes out there and shows that he is a legitimate, true #1 receiver that separates at all levels of the field. He's going to get a ton of volume like he always does because he's always open. So, yeah, I'm going with Deontay Johnson in week 1, and I've lost no faith in him as a player despite the quarterback change.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put Miles Sanders on your permanent record there. That was only a reference to Deontay and Godwin. Let's take one more here. Let's see what we've got. This one is from Sandy. I will take this one. Oh, it's Juju or it's Christian Kirk. Again, I want to agree with Tank in that I think Christian Kirk is going to be a good play basically for the rest of the season. He's presumably going to be the #1 receiver for Trevor Lawrence. Things are looking up for Trevor Lawrence now that Urban Meyer is no longer in charge of that offense, but there's no way I'm benching Juju Smith-Schuster in this one. Hyper-talented player, coming into a huge workload this year, tied to Patrick Mahomes. This is going to be the best quarterback he's ever worked with. The one time in his career he had a good quarterback, it was 1,400 yards. So I think you're going to want to start Juju this week and every week moving forward. Okay, we've got a few minutes here. Matt, what is cooking in the chat right now?
Andy, a lot of things are cooking in the chat room. I'm going to start off with this one because I think I'm going to answer a legit question here because I think this is a hard one. I've got these guys back-to-back in my rankings. We got Michael Thomas or Darnell Mooney from Mr. John 249. Cool name there on YouTube. Shout out to you. Man, this is a tough one. I am a little hesitant on Michael Thomas, obviously coming off a long injury layoff, but I'm going to go Michael Thomas just a bit over Darnell Mooney. I know you could project a ton of targets theoretically to Mooney, but still a rough game script. We know the weather there in Chicago is not ideal, so I do think you could trust Thomas enough, although I'm really interested to see how much he matches up with A.J. Terrell, the star Falcons cornerback, so that is an interesting one. Also, we've got a very interesting chat message here. Jay Bizzle wants to wish Andy Behrens a happy birthday. Andy, thank you so much for spending your 69th birthday here with us on Fantasy Football Live. I mean, this is so great. What a magical moment here for us. Andy, happy birthday to my oldest, literally, and dearest friend.
Oh, people are too kind. You're too kind.
Well, I don't know about kind, but because you it's your birthday, I'm going to give you this really irritating question here from Alex P. Would you start Breece Hall or DJ Chark in week 1? Well, Andy, it's your birthday. Why don't you make Alex P's day with that dusty question?
All right, brutal matchup for Breece Hall. We don't exactly know what the workload is going to be. He's still stuck in committee with Michael Carter, so I guess I'm going with DJ Chark. It was forever ago, but it was like 2019 when DJ Chark was tracking to finish a season as a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. Had a little ankle issue at the end of the year. And again, I give him a pass on the Urban Meyer season. That's not on him. I think he's a solid number 2, number 3 receiver this week. So for me, this is probably Chark. Ugh.
Yeah. Yikes. Tough way to start your fantasy season. Tank, I'm going to throw you the last question here. It's from Grey Wolf, but I also have to read Grey Wolf's birthday message just to prove to really hammer the point of how old Andy is. Grey Wolf says, Andy, been following you since the Ray Rice breakout season, which was his first year playing fantasy. Made it to the finals with your picks, so shout out to you. You're a boss. Hope your birthday is fantastic. That's very nice, Grey Wolf. Now, Grey Wolf, we're going to answer your fantasy question here. Tank's going to answer it. We need to pick two between the aforementioned Miles Sanders, Cordero Patterson, A.J. Dillon, or the now rising back up the depth chart, Antonio Gibson in a PPR league. Tank. Between those four options, which way you going?
Well, I would like to say that even though Andy is 69 years old, I'm glad to see that he's still choosing fantasy football over bingo. I know they're kind of neck and neck right now, but fantasy's still winning out, so you're all right with us. When it comes to those running backs, I think for me, Antonio Gibson, I really like that with no Robinson. I believe that Gibson is going to get the lion's share of the carries in the matchup. That's really not that bad for the running back. And then who are my other options right there?
Miles Sanders and Cordero Patterson.
Nope.
Tank, if you want to end on a harmonious note here, A.J. Dillon.
You know, I actually don't mind.
I would pick one.
I honestly don't mind Cordero Patterson too much, even though on paper it doesn't look like a really great matchup. But this dude honey roasted the Saints in one of those matchups last year. I really like the way they're going to use him in the pass game, so I would go with Corduroy and Antonio Gibson.
I was going to give Tank a way to end in harmony there, but yeah, fine. We'll still be on opposite sides of the fence.
No, there's never any harmony between me and Harmon.
Oh my gosh, I'm not ready for my bingo years yet, but maybe, I don't know, my pickleball years, something like that. Anyway, I'm ancient. That is going to do it for this edition of Fantasy Football Live. Thanks for kicking off your season with us. Remember, check back in here every Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and keep up with the latest analysis, daily content, our podcast, and of course, updated player rankings at Yahoo Fantasy. Good luck to all your squads in Week 1. You're still technically undefeated. We are going to see you next week.